So we eat for both physiological reasons and those psychological reasons. We move on to obesity, and it's characterized by excessive body fat and a BMI greater than 30. Now, we're aware that BMI is not the best way to test really someone's weight or like if they're healthy or normal, but it's the best that we have right now because BMI isn't good because it doesn't measure muscle mass. It just looks at like the whole, doesn't measure muscle or bone or anything. It just measures weight and puts you in a category based on your height and weight. Okay. But at least gives us a general area to say, okay, we need people to be between 18 and 25 of a BMI. And then you have a category right after that that's overweight, and then a category of obesity, and then morbid obesity. And it's really to give us a perspective and doctors kind of a quick reference of how healthy are people. We've learned that abdomen fat is the worst to have because it attaches to those organs and can be problematic. It's important too, just for your mental health as well, to be healthy. Your physical health, your mental health, all of that are impacted by your health, by your weight, your health, and all of that. Weight cycling or yo-yo dieting is where you do like the fad diets where you do the next one and you drop some weight really quickly, but usually as soon as you stop, you gain it all back, if not more. And so it's just not really healthy. Honestly, the best way, and we all know this, diet and exercise. If we would just eat right, how we know we're supposed to eat, we'd lose the weight and we'd be healthier. Now, I'm not saying hormones are not an issue. I'm not saying they're not diseases, medication that makes it difficult to lose. Okay. But this is just, there are things that we can do to try to help control it, even if it is hormones that are uncontrollable or something, you still can be doing things to help it rather than just totally let it go. So you just really, what it matters is if you're healthy. If you're healthy, you're healthy. That's really what we're working on. About 2/3 of U.S. adults struggle with being overweight. America is now the second largest nation, I guess, in obesity, and Mexico is ahead. I think we're 31% obese, and we're 30% obese, and Mexico was 31 last I checked. There are, again, environmental factors that happen to this. We know genetics take a role in it. Socioeconomic status. I had a friend a long time ago, he would say, it's not fair that you guys can work out all the time. I have kids and I can't afford to work out. And while kids do make it more difficult, now that I have a child, I realize this, but we still work out. We can still go outside and walk the dog for free. The kids like to ride their bikes, so you can go out and ride the bikes with the kids, take them to the park, walk around the park. There are tons of things we can do. Watch a YouTube video where we work out. So it can happen. It's just a matter of if we want it to or not. Okay. So you have to find what works for you, and really getting any type of exercise is going to be better than no exercise. And then right here it talks about that affordable food options. And I do understand that healthy food can be expensive, but so is junk food because we eat a lot more of junk food than we eat healthy food. For instance, a bag of apples and a bag of chips are roughly the same price. Have you ever sat down and accidentally ate an entire bag of apples while you're watching TV? So we eat less food whenever we eat healthier, and we feel better. And so we're spending less money for other issues that we're causing by eating better. So other factors are going to be the number of calories consumed. Some people just burn so many calories every single day, and you just choose more. Their basal metabolic rate is just higher than other people's. And it just varies between individuals. So you do need to know kind of about how much you burn, how active you are, and then try to consume the amount of calories that or less so that you have a calorie deficit to help. Others believe in this set point theory that your body just kind of has an ideal weight and a set point and it's resistant to change. That the thought is that it's genetically determined and that efforts to remove weight significantly from set point are resistant by compensatory changes in energy intake and expenditure. But really what I've seen, and Other medical professionals have seen and mentioned that you can kind of move your set points. You kind of have a set point, then you drop some weight, and then you kind of hit another set point. So they don't really look at, with this theory, that account of social and environmental factors. We do have lots of health risk for obesity, and obese children are likely to become obese adults, which is just horrible for them to have to face different issues, type 2 diabetes, infertility, breast cancer, all of that, just because there was obesity that occurred. And there's a lot of things psychosocially that they get to miss out on. Anybody who's obese, because of like skydiving. I used to love to watch Biggest Loser, and you have individuals who really wanted to skydive and they just couldn't because they were too heavy. And so there's things that they don't get to do because of that. There is bariatric surgery that you can lose weight with. It still takes, you have to overcome the psychological component of it and learn how to eat better. I've known people who've had the surgery where they put the band on their stomach or remove 2/3 of their stomach and are very successful. And then other people who have the surgery and just still they gain a few pounds, lose a few pounds, but not what they were hoping for. All right, so moving on to eating disorders. These are going to be a group of disorders that are marked by persistent gross disturbances in those eating patterns. So eating too much or too little, vomiting, laxatives, any of those would be causing eating disorders or labeled as an eating disorder. Anorexia nervosa is going to be where we don't eat or we don't eat enough to sustain how many calories we even burn for the day. This is a life-threatening psychiatric disorder. This is self-starvation and causes extreme weight loss. Some of the characteristics are going to be intense fear of becoming obese. They really don't even maintain enough to weigh healthy. They don't see themselves the way that they really look. There's either shame or pride in how they feel, and they can, or how they feel they look, and they have extreme weight loss, at least 15% below normal body weight. So more of a BMI of 12 when 18 is the healthy, 18 to 25. These guys intentionally starve themselves. I like this video because it's going to show you kind of how an anorexic sees themselves versus reality. These guys become obsessed with food and weight. The issue really is that there's something else going on and they can't control it, and so they want to control their life with food. And so that's where they get their control. So they think that controlling food is the same as controlling their life. And they can lose a significant amount of weight within 1 year. So if they weigh 100 pounds, they could drop 25 pounds in a year and weigh 75, which is crazy. I mean, for me, it'd be hard for me to lose 25 pounds in a year, much less somebody who's really tiny and doesn't have that weight to lose. They have a very big fear of becoming fat. Even if they're close to death because of starvation, they're still fearful. When they do eat, they have very strange rituals that are surrounded by them. I had a friend that was struggling with anorexia, and he would lick his fingers and touch things, and even if it was just lettuce, it wasn't enough. Like, he didn't eat enough that he had to just like touch his face and mouth and lick things all the time because he wasn't getting the calorie intake that he needed. And then they typically have a very strict and intensive exercise regimen. They will use laxatives, enemas, and diuretics inappropriately in order to help lose weight, and are constantly cold because they don't have that meat on their body, preoccupied with food, and layer to look heavier. Now, your body will break down your muscle first because it doesn't want to use your fat because it's your reserve. And so it's eating away that muscle, so the muscle's distorted, and then it goes for the fat next. So then muscle dystrophy can be another risk of it. We see this more often in females during adolescence than males. Males can have this for sure, but are less diagnosed with the disorder. And we see it with European American females of higher socioeconomic status, meaning wealthy white girls. Okay, your risk, malnourishment, you're not eating enough. There's a rainbow diet online where it talks about you eat half of an apple for breakfast, the other half at lunch, and a cup of lettuce, and you have like 100 or 88 calories. Then you eat carrot for dinner, and you have a red bell pepper for lunch, and the other half, only half of it for breakfast. And so by the whole week, you only consume 600 and something calories, when every day you should have a minimum of 2,000. So Not a minimum, probably a maximum of 2,000, depending on where you're at. Minimum females, I think they say 12 to 1,400 minimum, and then males are more about 14 to 16 minimum, 100 calories. Their bones are at risk for osteoporosis or fat fractures because they don't have enough nutrients in them. As your body's not getting the nutrients that it needs, the body will strip it from its own bones, and so the bones become fragile and weak. Their menstrual cycle will stop and men become impotent. Mortality rate 10%, damage to all parts of their body, and severe dehydration. And then in order to keep your body warm, it'll grow some baby-like hair all over the body and the face to try to keep you warmer. Not like a monkey or a chimpanzee, anything like that. But like when a baby's first born and they have a little bit of hair on them, like that. Your head hair falls out, seizures because you don't have enough fluids. And then when you decide you want to try to eat, you will have the inability to eat solid food because now your stomach doesn't really know how to process food. The next eating disorder we're looking at is going to be bulimia nervosa. This is going to be an eating disorder characterized by cycles of binging and purging. This will look like an out-of-control frenzy of eating that leads to an excessive amount. Not like, oh, I ate extra plate at the buffet. Like, I went to 4 to 7 fast food restaurants and ate a meal there. Something out of control. You're not binging on carrots and broccoli. You're binging on fatty, greasy, nasty food. There are 2 different types of bulimics. You have those who actively purge and then non-purging. Non-purging bulimics have excessively and compulsive exercise, fast or highly restricted diet. Okay? The difference between a non-purging bulimic and an anorexic is that a non-purging bulimic still eats. Okay? They have a very strict diet, but they do eat a lot. Your purging bulimics are going to actively force food back out, whether that's vomiting through laxatives, enemas, something like that. They may even get their stomach pumped, just several different ways to get it out. Whatever it takes, they're going to do to get it out of them. Now, it's not every single time. You don't binge and purge every single day. You may have normal days, and then you may binge and then purge. So it's not something that happens every day. Bulimics are really hard to detect because they do appear to have normal weight and height, sometimes even overweight. But they look healthier because they're still eating and they're not binging and purging every time. Again, when they eat, it's irrationally and they have to get it out of them. Again, more prevalent in female than in males, but it can still happen. And we see this when they're a little bit older, more in their 20s. We see this a lot more with males because of like weight classes that they have to try to be in to participate in whatever sport, like a jockey or boxing or something like that when they're weighing in, wrestling. Lots of damage happening here. Gums, damage to the gums and the teeth because of that acid that's coming up from the stomach all the time. Abnormal bowel function can be happening because of the laxatives, diuretics, all that we're doing. Swollen salivary glands, we have drug abuse, those stimulants, because that's what diet pills are, and they're speeding up that metabolism, so they're using that. Plus, they're not eating enough either, so they probably are going to be needing some more energy, something like that. Electrolyte imbalances because we're throwing up too much, sores in the mouth, irregular heartbeat, seizures because of the lack of liquid, again, like the other ones. Muscle weakness, stomach ulcers, so many issues. So the treatment for bulimics is more successful than for anorexics because bulimics realize something is wrong. Anorexics don't think there's anything wrong with them. They think that they're just trying to be healthy and there's nothing wrong with that. If you can get them caught in the first 6 months, you have a high chance of being able to recover without hospitalization. It's a very difficult disorder to cure. And so the longer it goes, the more difficult it will be, and hospital treatment is typically needed. Inpatient treatment is the best because we can watch you. We can see everything you're eating or you're doing, and that helps. It's also important to identify triggers and to learn to control them. Right? One girl tried to commit suicide over eating a piece of pizza. Was pizza really the culprit? No, it was just the final straw. So we have to teach her what her triggers are so that she doesn't eat this and it become difficult. And then nutrition therapy to help them realize how to eat healthy and to change those unhealthy eating habits.